So my client asked me to redo this dresser, and this is her inspiration. She said, "Can we make it look like this?" She told me there were a few broken drawers. So I said, "Yeah, we can do that." So I started by removing pieces of trim from the dresser, things that dated it and didn't have the same lines as her inspiration piece. So I took that piece off and I took that piece off down at the bottom and that one across the top. And all of those things, and that big one down at the bottom, all of those things didn't look like her first picture. I measured the distance of the knobs because she wanted new knobs on it. And I had to pull out all those tacks from those trim pieces, and I used Dixie Mud in brown to fill all of the holes. I'm reusing the top 3 knobs, so I spray painted them. The top is super shiny, so I'm using Dixie Belle's Slick Stick, a bonding primer, so that my paint will adhere to the top, to that very slick surface. I am at the bottom of the barrel there, so almost kind of pouring it out. The package directions require 2 coats, but I usually only use 1, and it was fine. So the paint technique that I'm doing is pretty random. I sped this part up just so you could get an idea of where I'm going with it, and then afterwards I slow it down a little bit, so you'll get the details. So basically I'm using Dixie Belle's Chalk Mineral Paint in Buttercream as my base. I only used 1 coat just because with this technique is kind of a streaky look anyway. It's got the wood grain in it. So I also used Voodoo Gel Stain in 2 colors, Tobacco Road and Up in Smoke, which is sort of a gray color, and Tobacco Road is brown, as you can imagine. So on this side, I also used the top of a wood grain tool in different ways. So this side was a little experimental. So the reason why I'm speeding through this is because I ended up coming back and doing a little dry brush with the buttercream over top because I went a little heavy on my techniques, but I experimented with all of them, and by the time I got around to the drawers on the other side, I kind of knew more what I wanted. So what I'm using is a stamp from Iron Orchid Designs, which is a barnwood plank stamp. So here we go with the drawers, and we're slowing it down a little bit. So again, 1 coat of buttercream, and you can use whatever color you want. I just picked this one because that's what I had. Of course, I have access to all of the 69 beautiful colors, plus all of the silks, because I'm an elite retailer. And that reminds me, if you're interested in purchasing any products, my affiliate link is in the description box. So now I'm using that very same brush, and I put a little bit of the Tobacco Road, and then I put a little bit of the Up in Smoke on there. And then I'm going to show you kind of close up what I'm doing with the top of that wood grain tool. So I put some paint on it, and I'm just rolling it a little bit, and then I do it the other way to make a complete knot. And then I just take my brush and I just kind of do a little soft brushing around the outside to just kind of blend it in and make it look like it's part of that faux wood grain. Now I'm taking a piece of that stamp, that barnwood stamp, and just putting it down at the bottom, and it just looks like a little bit of wood grain. Being very random and kind of staying a little on the lighter side now. So I'm doing the other side and the same technique. 1 coat of buttercream, and then I come in with my Voodoo Gel Stains, again in Tobacco Road and Up in Smoke. A lot of people are asking me for this technique lately, or asking me to do custom pieces like this. So if it's trendy out there for other people, then it might be a look that you want to simulate. So here's how you do it. And if you don't have that wood grain tool or those barnwood stamps, it's okay. You can really achieve most of it with a brush. So this is how I do it. I just kind of put some of that voodoo gel stain on there, and then I just kind of start at the top and just kind of pull it down through the wet paint. And then you don't want to fuss with it too much and blend it in too much, because that's what's giving you the effect of that wood grain. So, like I said, I just kind of squirt it directly on the brush. Normally, I would squirt it right on the piece, but I'm working on a vertical surface, so I don't want it to run in drips. So that's why we're doing that. So again, I'm using that top of the wood grain tool to make a knot. And I could use the handle, but I'm really just wanting the knots. Now, the way I did this was, typically when you look at the knots in the wood, sometimes they kind of curve. So that's kind of what I did with that. Just kind of brought it down and just kind of made a little curvy mark. And it really looked like part of the wood grain. I really liked it. Now, this larger piece, these make a design that's similar to kerf marks, or the marks that you get when you cut wood. So just kind of being random with this. This comes out kind of dark, and I'm okay with it. In the grand scheme of things, when it's all said and done, those are the kind of pieces or looks that I really like, and I find them to be, gives it such character and really kind of makes it look like wood. So what I'm saying is, it's only paint, so don't be afraid to play around, even on the piece you're working on. You can paint right over it and just do your thing. Practice on a sample board if you want, if you're afraid to start right on your piece. But I've done this technique before, so I wasn't really afraid. And then I took another lighter piece over top of it and just kind of gave it some additional interest. So, like I said, you can, if you think that's too dark, you can go through it again with the dry brush using the buttercream or your lighter color. So I varied using the Tobacco Road and also the Up in Smoke for the knots. Just kind of tried to do it differently each time. And then just ever so softly with that brush, I kind of straighten up the line where the two half circles meet, and then just kind of give it a little curve in. And I think it looks pretty natural. And knowing when to stop is kind of a good thing during this process. But again, it's only paint, and you can paint right over it. So also in my description box, you'll find my Amazon wish list link. So if that's something that you're interested in taking a look at, it's just a way to help support my business, and I certainly appreciate it. Okay, so now I'm starting on the top, picking out little paint crumbs, if you will. And if you like this video, don't forget to share it, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to tell me how you feel about this technique, or if you've ever tried it, or if I inspired you to try it. So I repeated, and I went very light over the top. And then, of course, I did the face. And again, I didn't do much in these areas. The reason I didn't do much on the top is because people put things on the dresser top anyway. So I did run a little bit of the wood grain in it, but I didn't do the knots or the other stamps. So I didn't do any of that on the front either. I'm just putting the buttercream on, and then I'm just doing a little bit of the voodoo gel stain on it. So, you know, that painted up so nicely, that piece that wasn't, that was all covered up with trim before, it painted beautifully. So again, we're coming back in with a little bit of our Voodoo gel stain, because you really don't notice it that much in this part because your drawers are the main attraction on the front of the piece. So here's the hardware that I got from Lowe's, and here's the one I sprayed. I think it turned out to be a pretty good match. So I took a little sanding pad, a very fine sanding pad, and then now I'm going to take a little bit of the Easy Peasy spray wax from Dixie Belle, and you shake it until you can't hear the liquid anymore, and then you know it's ready to spray. And this is just like it says, easy peasy. Imagine spraying wax. So I spray it on, and then I'm also, while we're waiting, I'm kind of cleaning out my wax brush. I'm using a La Petite brush from Dixie Belle, and I don't always wash it out. The waxes are water-based, but I kind of like to keep that wax in there, and having a little black wax in there, because that's what I used last, isn't going to hurt a thing. So, but I'm using brown. And when you use a dark colored wax, especially on a white, you definitely want to use a clear wax first. It helps to float the wax so it's just not as harsh. And then also, if you get too much in one place, you can use the clear wax as sort of an eraser to get rid of the excess dark areas that you have. But you just want to rub that in, and again, take back some with your rag and a little bit of the clear wax if it's too dark for you. I always go like around the handles and around the corners and around the edges a little bit with my wax. And now it's time to put that hardware back on. That's always that fun moment. So what do you think? That's what we started with. And there's our goal on the left, and the light's hitting the handles a little bit, but they are black. They're almost twinsies. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, how about giving it a thumbs up and also share it with your friends? If you haven't subscribed, you'll want to do that so you don't miss anything. Visit us at LaVintageDecor.company, and on Instagram we're LaVintageDecor, and on Facebook we're LaVintageDecor Altoona. Stay well.